because the race to lead Nigeria is intensifying, with some calling it the Battle of the Titans. There's no end to controversy towards the 2023 elections. Just today, President Buhari directed all 5 members of his cabinet planning to contest the elections to resign. They have until May 16th to do so, but some are wondering whether ordinary Nigerians have anything to gain from the elections. Granted, they have had to put up with failed promises of governing all progressive Congress since 2015. Joining us now for some insight into the contest is the Institute for Security Studies researcher Teniola Tayo. Teniola, good evening. Good to have you with us tonight. Let's start there. I mean, that controversy, President Buhari telling his cabinet ministers who are planning to run for elections to resign. What kind of reaction has that received?
Well, I think a lot of people were expecting that. You know, for example, when it was known that the CBN governor had picked up forms, or some people had picked up nomination forms for him, there was quite an outrage in Nigeria on social media, you know, for example, because, you know, the question was, the CBN governor ought to be non-partisan, and for a CBN governor to declare that he was part of a party and even picking up forms to run for the president, then that would even throw a lot of problems into the political process, because the CBN votes are where the sensitive electoral materials are even kept. So I think it was quite a welcome development from people, and it's also embedded in the new Electoral Act, although the constitutionality of that has been contested as well. But it was a welcome development to people. Yeah.
So, I mean, do you expect that there'll be high compliance to it, or some legal challenges maybe?
Yeah. So, I mean, the CBN governor himself even tried to contest that provision already, and he wasn't successful, or he hasn't been successful so far. I think we're going to see, and, you know, some people have been commenting that, you know, Buhari waited for them to actually buy the forms before, you know, pushing out this directive. So I guess it depends on how the parties are even going to manage this process, because I reckon some of the monies paid for the forms are non-refundable. And, you know, in this case now, people may not be as willing to resign and sort of like be completely dependent on the outcomes of the electoral process for the next 1 year. So in the next couple of days and weeks, we'll see how things evolve.
Yeah. The chair of the Electoral Commission himself, there was some report that he expressed interest to run for the presidency. Is he still going ahead with that?
Oh, no, he always denied that, you know, right from the start. I think they even issued a formal statement saying that, even though it's true that people are calling on him to run, which all politicians say in Nigeria, but that he has no interest in taking up office, similar to the controversies around the former president, Goodluck Jonathan.
Goodluck Jonathan, is he coming on, or will he not be seeking the presidential position?
You know, as things heat up, it's difficult to know what is true and what is not true. So there have been rumors about Goodluck Jonathan for the last couple of months, and many people did not believe this. And then it was made known that a form had been purchased for him, supposedly. And then he issued a statement saying that this was done without his permission. But then you have some other accounts, you know, denying his denial and saying that he was quite aware of that process and that things are moving forward. But you have even more denials from his camp saying that, no, it's not true. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. At this point, it's difficult to know what is true and what is not true. So I always encourage people not to make leaps or make conclusions at this point. You need to really see clearly what the developments are before we make some of these judgments. Yeah. So it's not clear yet what Goodluck Jonathan is doing.
Yeah. Is it part of the political theater there, especially around elections, for the contenders or the politicians to switch from committing, not committing, switching sides as well? Is that part of what should be expected here?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is it's a very strong picture of Nigerian politics. So people go to where they feel they are more likely to win the candidacies. So, for example, by the time, you know, the primaries are getting closer, and when some candidates feel like their chances of emerging as the candidates for a particular party are slim, then they move to another party where they may more easily be able to emerge. So that is going to happen definitely in the next couple of weeks, you know, because there's a deadline of June, the first week of June, for all parties to submit their candidates. So this is it's the crunch period for the political parties in Nigeria.
Yeah. President Buhari expected, of course, to step down next year after serving 2 full terms. Has he anointed his successor?
He hasn't. He's been making a lot of comments in the media saying that he knows his preferred candidates, but that he's not going to reveal the person because it's going to affect the person's chances. So he's really playing his cards close to his chest. But I think that, I mean, it really depends on how much he decides to get involved in this particular elections. Because if he decides to get really involved and he anoints someone before the APC primaries, then there's a higher likelihood that the person will emerge as the APC candidate. But if he decides to stay out of it and then he just follows the process, then whoever emerges from the primary election process, he will have to support the person in the campaign process. So it's really up to him at the moment.
Yeah.
And Buhari is someone that you can't always predict, what he's going to do.
20 ruling party candidates registered to contest the primary vote. Are they all going to be part of it, or is there still a vetting process that they will undergo?
The vetting process is just about whether they qualify, for the primaries or not. I think that, for example, on the PDP side of things, there were two people that were disqualified based on some of those criteria. But yes, it's quite a crowded list, and there have been, some aspersions as to why so many people are signing up. It seems like not all of them are signing up for the reasons that we think that they are. But there's a long game, somewhere in there that Nigerians are going to. That is going to be revealed to Nigerians in due course.
Yeah. So there's an expectation that there might be 20, but there will be some horse trading that will start, and sooner or later, some candidates will be dropping out. So what does that horse trading entail? I mean, what are they trading for?
It's really about the power blocks within the APC. So one of the ideas that is being put out there is that, perhaps because if a candidate is anointed by the powers that be within the APC, then there's usually a negotiation with every other person to step down, and that negotiation can even result in a multiplication of the amount that they invested in the nomination forms. And of course, generally, when it comes to negotiations of power, you want to be in the room. So it could be one of the reasons why so many people are submitting their names as candidates, or as nominees. Because so that whenever those discussions are happening, they are in the room and they can possibly even secure themselves valuable positions within the next government. Because when the negotiations are happening, they are offered something in exchange for something, so they want to be part of that process. So there are many different motivations and reasons why people may be picking up these forms, but in fact, I think that even within the APC, a lot of people don't know exactly what is happening. So people only have eyes on a small portion of the development. But then the big game, as we call it, is going to be revealed shortly because there's not a lot of time left.
Yeah. The Catholic Bishop, Matthew Kuka, I don't know if you've seen that statement where he's warning that the 2023 general elections will not be free and fair or credible unless those at the helm of the affairs were able to create a sense of common citizenship among Nigerians. Is the religious voice quite heavy in this electoral process?
I think particularly Bishop Kuka, his voice is particularly influential because, he heads the Kuka Foundation at the Kuka Center, and Kuka Center manages the National Peace Committee. The National Peace Committee is an initiative that organizes forums around the elections where all of the candidates have to come and sign and declare that they will hold peaceful elections and that they will make sure that their members and their supporters will not incite any violence. So in that case, he has a very serious role to play as far as peaceful elections go, and generally speaking, he's been quite a fixture again in Nigerian politics. So, I mean, him as a person, he has quite an influential voice in Nigerian politics.
Yeah. What is the expectation as far as citizen participation? Is there generally a huge voter turnout and participation from citizens when it's election time?
So for the Nigerian voter turnout data, it's been on decline since democracy, and I think there was a peak in the early 2000s, and since then it's been on the decline. And again, because of some of the things that happened in Nigeria in 2020, for example, the EndSARS protest, there's been even increased citizen apathy. Right, a lot of people are leaving the country, and a lot of people are not interested in the electoral process. But I'd say that the voter apathy or not will depend on the candidates that emerge from the primary process. So if you have candidates that seem like business as usual, and if you have candidates that seem like they're the same thing across the different parties, then no one is going to really be interested in them. But then if you have candidates that seem like they're going to be bringing a breath of fresh air into the electoral process and into Nigerian politics and democracy or governance, then there may be increased interest in the elections because everyone knows that it's an opportunity to try to turn our fortunes around and something that is quite direly needed in Nigeria at the moment.
Yeah. What are the hopes, I mean, particularly from the citizen post the 2023 elections?
So there are, I mean, some big issues. There's an insecurity issue happening in the north, but also across the country. And there's a hope that whoever comes in will be able to deal with these issues more decisively. So to bring in innovative ideas, beyond what has been happening so far, and just really stem the tide in terms of the amount of Nigerians that are dying or being kidnapped or just facing other forms of criminality. Of course, there are the economic issues and the challenges that, for example, the Naira is facing. I mean, the Naira is just one part of it, but also the revenue crisis that the government is facing as well, and how that, has implications for everything else. So there are massive issues that, we really need somebody with new ideas, with a strong hand, a strong but democratic and accountable hand to come and fix. So these are some of the hopes, right? And these are some of the things that are guiding the discourse around the elections. These are some of the things that are guiding the evaluation of one candidate over the other. There are concerns that so far a lot of the candidates, I mean, not all of them, a lot of the candidates seem, like business as usual.
Teniola Tayo, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming through Security Studies, Institute for Security Studies researcher there, Teniola Tayo, looking at the presidential race in Nigeria.